These lights are going to go up very shortly because I have them on timers. So we'll see how long this lighting lasts. Probably not very. I might have to turn that one on again, but we shall see. Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today is going to be something a little different. Not a plant video. Let's go. I'm actually going to be talking about all of the languages I want to learn and sort of the reasoning behind my want to learn them. Now, since most of you probably don't know, I have been studying, or I've studied several languages over like the past 7 years? No, 5. 5 years. Just purely out of fun. I'm not very good at it, so don't ask me for any advice or ask me to speak anything for you. But I'm putting in an effort, and so I'm going to be talking about all the languages I hope to learn, and if I've dabbled in them, I'll sort of explain that as well. So let's just get started with this. Alright, so the first language I want to learn, and probably expected this, is Spanish. Now, I didn't want to learn Spanish for the longest time. In high school, when I had to choose a language to learn, I didn't choose Spanish because I was like, oh, that's too easy, that's stupid, why would I learn Spanish when I can learn French? I retained 0 French knowledge from that class, but love my teacher though. But once I started working at a customer service job where I actually had to interact with people who spoke mostly Spanish, I found it really difficult to communicate with them, and in those moments I had just wished that I would have just learned Spanish in school. It would have been so much more useful than French, and I probably would have retained it better. But nope, I had to be different. The next one that I want to learn is Korean. This is the one that I started studying and what got me into learning languages in the first place. Now, that means I've been studying this language for not 7 years, 5 years. That doesn't mean I'm any good at it whatsoever. I'm really bad at Korean. I used to be really good, but I suck at retaining knowledge. So within those 5 years, it was definitely like on and off studying, not all the way through by any means. So I'd learn Korean, I'd get pretty good at it, and then I'd stop for like a year or like a couple months, and then I'd be like, crap, I'm losing all this information. So I'd get at it again, and then nope, I got busy. So I know basic Korean, I can understand basic Korean, but I'm still in like the beginning stages of learning Korean, and I understand very little, and I suck at speaking it, so not happening. The next language I want to learn is Japanese. This is one of those languages that I started learning in 2020 during quarantine, and I wanted to give up so bad. I'm still technically studying it, but the thing holding me back is the writing systems. Hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Kanji's fine. Only thing I hate is like memorizing the stroke patterns, but kanji's fine. I cannot, for the life of me, memorize hiragana or katakana at all. 2020, once again during quarantine, I started studying it, and then as soon as we got back to in-person school, I dropped it, stopped learning it, and only recently have I picked it up again. So that is one of the languages I'm currently studying, but minimal knowledge in that field. The next language I want to learn is Mandarin. Now, this is one of the languages that I want to learn that I haven't yet dabbled in, mainly because it is very intimidating for me. I have the resources in mind of how I would go about learning it, but it is so intimidating. A lot of people think it's like the tones. I don't care about the tones. So many characters that I have to memorize, and that's the thing I don't like. One of the things I don't like with Japanese is memorizing the stroke patterns. Overwhelming. Very overwhelming. Next, speaking of tones, is Thai. This is another one of the languages that I started learning in 2020 during quarantine, and I thought it was going great. I tried to memorize the writing system, and I was getting there. And then as I was going through the lessons of the resources I was using, I was just like, I'm not learning anything. I'm just taking notes and moving on. Which, as soon as I started trying to actually retain the information that I was writing down, that's when it went downhill. Tones are fine, but there's just something about it that was way too overwhelming for me, especially at the time. So I ended up dropping that and never picking it back up. Next language I want to learn, which is also a newfound sort of obsession, is Russian. I've not touched anything having to do with the Russian language. My school offers it. Very tempted on taking like beginner Russian courses just to, take an actual course. But it sounds so cool. Can you blame me for wanting to learn Russian? Like, it sounds so cool. But, the language is pretty cool. I have a friend who speaks Russian, and I have friends that also want to, excuse me, I also have friends that want to learn Russian, so I could probably get them on that bandwagon and study with them. That would be really fun, I think. Next language I want to learn is Dutch. This is not new. It's pretty new. It's pretty new. Compared to all the other languages on this list, this is a newfound want. And the only reason that I want to learn Dutch is because I am Dutch. There it is. I don't know. This lighting's better, but that's going to turn off soon. Impressive. Oh, there we go. Oh, the lighting's not too bad. Okay. So the reason I want to learn Dutch is because I'm Dutch. I'm about 70% Dutch, I think. I did take a DNA test. That's the only reason I know that. But I am very Dutch, and I became sort of obsessed with the Netherlands as a whole, which made me want to learn Dutch, and I have been learning Dutch for not consistently, but for about 5 months now. I was learning it during school, and then as soon as summer hit, I stopped. Motivation down. And I also don't have anyone to learn it with, so that doesn't help either. But I have picked it up again, and I'm getting the hang of it now. It's not nearly as hard as like Korean or Japanese, but I'm getting the hang of it. Next is German. I have always had a fascination with the German language, just because of the way it sounds and because of how different it is from other European languages. Now, I know a lot of European languages are like, romantic or whatever, but even just, it's different. It's different, Also, I have a friend with a German accent. Love her. The best. She's one of my biggest inspirations for learning both Russian and German, because she knows both of them. So I'm like, I want to communicate with her in these languages, but that is gonna take a while. It's gonna take a long time. Next is Arabic. Solely for the purpose of being able to say, hey, this is one of the hardest languages statistically for native English speakers to learn. But I learned it, so I'm better than you. And my best friend speaks Moroccan Arabic, so I think it'd be fun to understand conversations that she has with her mother. Eavesdropping, let's go. Next is Tagalog. This is sort of dying down for me. It is something I still want to do in the future, but it's not something that I'm going to do anytime soon. The reason I wanted to learn Tagalog is because I used to watch these YouTubers who would react to Asian dramas and just dramas in general, and they spoke Tagalog. Obviously, there was English mixed in, but I couldn't understand half what they were saying, and I really wished I could without having to turn on the subtitles that may or may not have been there from a viewer of some sort. So I think it sounds really nice. I like the sound of Tagalog, but I also don't know how I would go about learning it. A lot of the languages that I haven't picked up yet are solely because I haven't found a good resource that is free, and I am broke, so I can't afford to like buy textbooks for these or anything like that. So Tagalog is another one of those where I just don't have the resources to go about learning it. Next one is Esperanto. I was learning this for a solid year and a half, 4 years back, I think, and I got really good at it. I was having conversations and I was watching videos without needing subtitle. I got really good at it. I wouldn't say like expert level or even like higher intermediate, but I could understand basic conversations in Esperanto. Now, if you don't know what Esperanto is, it is a constructed language, meaning that like no place in the world natively speaks it. Some guy made it up and people started speaking it. Now, a problem with Esperanto, like a lot of other languages, is the lack of resources to learn it. I was learning it through Duolingo and by watching YouTube videos and sort of self-teaching myself through YouTube videos, and once again, Duolingo sort of gave me the basics. But then, a year after I started learning it, I just stopped. There was no real reason that I stopped. It was a lot of work. It was more like a chore for me. And I lost every single little bit of Esperanto that I have ever learned. And I haven't looked back at it yet. So I feel like I could get back into it if I really tried. And I could get back into it fast because of how much I knew. But the thing about languages is if you don't speak them consistently or you don't use them consistently, you will lose them. Next, this is a special one, Greek. This is brand spanking new on my list to the point where I haven't even looked into it very much. I heard a clip and I was like, that sounds cool. I want to speak it. Pretty much it. Next is French. Now, as I said before, I was learning French in school, but I did not retain any of the information that I learned besides like the basics, which everyone knows already. So I'm sort of hoping that someday I can get back into it. Frankly, it's not a language or a culture that interests me too much, but I feel like it'd be cool just to know and to be able to talk to people in, because frankly, a lot of my friends speak French because they learned it in school, and I feel like it'd be cool to just pick that back up again and be able to actually use it rather than taking it for 2 years in high school and never using it again. Anyway, that's the basic list of all the languages I want to learn, as well as sort of reasons why, how I gained interest in them, etc. And there are probably going to be a lot more languages added to this list as I discover more, or even some will probably get taken away. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a different one. I am going to be doing more videos like this in the future, but if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you're learning any languages yourself, or if you maybe speak a second language. But I only speak one fluently, which is why I'm doing this. So subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, or if you like any of the other videos on my page, and I will see you all later. Bye!